All right, hey everyone. Adjust this thing over here. Just give me a second. All right. There we go. Mark here, Mark P Markets. Thanks for joining me for another Bitcoin day trade session. So as the title says here, I'm going to demonstrate how to day trade the Bitcoin perpetual futures on a 5-minute chart. Okay. This is not the best choice for beginners, but I put in the title here, strategy for beginners. So I'm basically showing you the thought process that goes into this, and I'm going to demonstrate with the paper trade application here through TradingView. Okay, so with that being said, let's get this thing started. All right, so this is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. All right, so and just so you know, if I take any trades, it's on paper. Okay, these aren't real. It's an exercise to show you the thought process that goes into this. And by the way, do me a favor, if you like the content, please press the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel. I am planning to put some more valuable content on the channel, not just these streams. Also, if you haven't checked out some of the links in the description, I have a free Discord community. There's an excellent channel in there called Learning Resources that Bill helped me put together. And I mean, the stuff in there is like a training module in and of itself. This is the type of information in that channel. It's free. This is the type of information that no one talks about. Okay, fake gurus don't talk about this stuff because a lot of it refutes the stuff that they're trying to push on you. It's the reality. So it's a great place to start if you're new on just getting general concepts about the market. Okay, so it helps to build a strong academic foundation, and it helps point you on the right path, on the type of information that you should be pursuing, rather than these videos about how to use, this moving average crossover with that to make $1 billion, because it's all nonsense. This is the most deceptive business in the world. Okay, so check that out. Also, I have mentioned this to a few of my training students, and this is something I've been working on very hard, and it's coming out very soon. I'm hopefully I can get it out this month. What I have is something called auto setups. Okay, basically auto setups, what they are is my screening criteria pushed into channels on the Discord server. So it produces results like stock symbols or whatever, Forex symbols, right? That are presenting a particular opportunity in the market at the moment. So I'm going to first start this with my active investor members, and it's going to be for optionable stocks, because right now my active investors, mostly the trades that we're getting in there are options trades, because my moderator is an options guy. He likes options, and they've been doing really well in there. Okay, I'm not just saying that. Not every trade wins, but they have some nice winning trades. So I'm setting up this auto setups channel for that group. And each day it's going to produce, maybe not every day, but at least a few days a week, because it's a very narrow screen. It will produce a list of stocks, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 stocks, not too many. It's not going to produce a list of 25 stocks. Okay. And these stocks will be optionable. The point of this is it's basically the beginning of a trade idea, right? So it's like almost having like a trade radar or using a screener properly. The problem with screeners, if you don't know how to use one, it's not just about randomly throwing a couple of tools together and see what comes up. You really have to have a strong grasp on what you're trying to find from the market, and you have to understand why this opportunity would show up in the first place. The TradingView has a screener, and there's like a million functions on there that you can screen for. But if you don't know what you're doing with it, right? It's like you're starting out as a pianist, and you buy yourself a grand piano because you think that the grand piano is going to make you a better piano player, but you just started out learning about the piano, right? As we know, the piano is not going to help you make you better. You can buy a cheap piano and you can start learning on the cheap piano first for about 10 years, right? So that's the whole thing. The screener is useless to you unless you really have the experience to pull what you need from it. Okay, so that's really the value of the auto screener, is I know what to pull from a screener, and I've been testing the results. And it produces some really interesting trades that I would otherwise not be able to find myself, especially in the stock market. Okay, so there's going to be 3 asset classes, of course, for the screeners. I'm starting out with optionable stocks. Okay, so guys, look for that if you're interested in that. Also, if you're not an options trader, it doesn't matter, because you can actually use the trade ideas for the stocks outright, right? You don't have to trade options. It's still the same idea. You can just buy shares of stock. Anyway, all right, you guys. So I just wanted to mention that all of that is happening in the Discord server. So become a free member, check out the Learning Resource channel, start from there. If you're interested in what I just talked about, send me a private message, okay, in the channel, because I'm not going to message you. You can message me, and I can tell you more about it. All right, so let's get this trade stuff going on here, day trade Bitcoin, right? So let me make the chart bigger here for you. And yeah, there we go. So let's now, as you can see, I have two charts up here, right? Here, let me refresh this chart here. And here, I was experimenting with that. Let me pull that off. This is a 30-minute chart, okay? These aren't the perpetual futures charts yet. This is the 30-minute, and this is the daily, right? Now, let me just say hi to a few people here. Who do we have? We got Bill, Elijah, Z, good to see you. Raman, how are you? Mr. Plow. Raman, I hope you were able to fix that website situation you were telling me about. Will, good to see you. Jeff, Levant, Shell, all right, good to see everyone. Okay, cool. So now, one question I want to put out to you guys real quick is I've been thinking about changing the time of this stream because I notice I get about the same amount of people each time. And I'm thinking this may not be a convenient time for a lot of people, right? Especially in the US. I mean, I know the West Coast are pretty much sleeping right now, right? It's still very early over there. So I'm thinking maybe I push this stream to 3 o'clock. What do you guys think? Tell me, all right? I want you to tell me what works for you guys. Does 3 o'clock Eastern time work better? I know for some of you European guys, it's going to be like at 10 o'clock at night, but maybe that works better. Tell me in the chat. All right. So next thing is let's talk about Bitcoin from the day trade perspective. Now, this is my daily chart, right? And I talked about this on Monday, and I talked about this in my TradingView article. And as you can see, this thing has been range bound, right? And it's been very hard to trade this. And I said swing trade opportunities are going to be very, very hard here. And sometimes it's best to avoid swing trades. So I was saying, look to day trade the range, right? And when you're looking to day trade, you really don't have to pay attention to the daily time frame anymore, because as a day trader, we're only looking for intraday momentum and nothing else. So what occurs on the daily time frame, unless you're at a major daily level, it's not going to be relevant to what we're looking for on the smaller time frame. So the idea here is to utilize the least amount of information possible, right? People think it's more is better, but no, the least amount of information is possible better. So we're not going to use the daily chart. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to a 30-minute chart over here, okay? And I might as well change this to my BTC perp. Might as well do that now. So the perpetual futures chart, these are just futures charts that you'll find on certain platforms, like Binance or, BitGet or whoever, okay? So whoever you trade through, that's whose data feed you should use so that it matches the charts on your platform. So I set up the Bitcoin perpetual futures here on Binance. That's the 30-minute. And we're going to move this one over here to a 5-minute. All right, we're going to move this to the 5-minute. I'll explain why I'm doing this here in a moment. Many of you guys know why, but someone that's new that may be following this may not be familiar. So I'm going to change this to a perp chart as well, right? Same chart. So we have the same chart here, okay? Binance perpetual futures. Now, don't overreact to what's going on here. There's price action happening. You don't want to react. First, we have to put our bigger picture expectations together. That's basically the first step. Okay, so you guys, I'm getting some answers here on that question I asked you. So you like the 3 o'clock. I think this time, as it's right around, well, sure. I mean, Jeff, that was my original premise, near the market open, to trade the market open. All right, better for me in England. Okay, yes, that's fixed. Okay. Okay, I'm just catching up here. All right, so far I'm seeing what you guys are liking the market open better for the stream or 3 o'clock. It looks like I'm getting kind of an even response here, right? So Will says 3 o'clock. Jeff says 9:30. Levant, I'm not sure what you mean, and Will, maybe you could be more specific. But I just want to get an idea, because I mean, for me, 3 o'clock would actually be kind of better too, right? 3 o'clock Eastern time, so that I don't have to, I could start my day out in a more productive way. Okay, this is not the most productive way for me. All right, anyway, but I want to do what appeals to most of the viewers. So we just set up the charts, right? We have a 30-minute, we have a 5-minute. Now, before we talk about the 5-minute, we need to formulate some sort of expectations, right? So I'm switching here now. I'm maximizing the 30-minute chart because we want to get our day trade expectations from this time frame. This is our bigger time frame for day trades, okay? And what we're looking for out of this chart are two things. We're looking for structure and we're looking for levels. That's all we're looking for, right? So I don't need to put any oscillators on here. I don't know. I need to put any other garbage. All I need here is structure and levels so that I can form some reasonable expectations, okay? So now let's go back and let's see. Now a 30-minute chart is only going to give us, we can basically get a few days worth of data on here. That's really all we need, right? Going back, this is just a few days. So I know I have a major support around this level right here. That's pretty clear. That's 22,630. We're nowhere near that right now, okay? Now, as far as structure goes, though, this support, as we know on the bigger picture, from because we had that glimpse of the daily chart, we know that this is generally a higher low, okay? So we know that the broader structure right now is generally bullish. And when I say broader structure, we're talking about like going back a month. But again, we want to know what's going on our intraday structure. So we have to keep that in mind that this level here is basically a daily level, right? That support. And that may not come into play. It may not be in play today. So we want to see what's going to be, happening in the next few hours here. Well, I have a level here. I can redraw this chart. Clearly, that was a level I drew previously, and it's still relevant. All right. It was an old resistance, which is now going to act as a support, most likely. That's around 23,054. Right now, we're at 23,021, the 23 whole number area, right? Old resistance, new support. Okay. So that is how I'm going to treat it. Now, you can't pinpoint and say, oh, 23 even, because markets are imperfect, right? They're very random, especially on smaller time frames. So I know in this general area, how this helps me is this general area, I should be anticipating some type of bullish reversal, right? Anticipating some type of bullish reversal. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it, but it means that there's a good probability that this thing reverses here, okay? If it doesn't and it breaks, then that's going to be a continuation of bearish momentum, and I will have to adjust. But right now, it's safe to assume that this thing is likely to find a reversal. Now, so we're at a support level. Where's my next resistance level? Well, we have one up in here somewhere, okay? I'm looking at this point right here, right? We have that. This was an old support, so it's likely to act as a resistance. Look at this, right? This must have been Chairman Powell speaking yesterday, I would imagine. Not sure exactly what caused all this, but I mean, look at where it reversed, right? Look at it tried to get through this, and it can't stay above this area for long, clearly. I mean, it's a number of hours, but the point is it rejects the general area, right? So that's an area of resistance, which means if price pokes up into this area, I should be looking for bearish reversals. That would be more reasonable for short expectations. Does that make sense? So right now we are in an area where long expectations make sense. So that's where I adjust my mindset. This is what the 30-minute tells me. If this low stays intact, if it does, then that becomes a higher low. And it's reasonable to see a move over the next few hours working its way up into here. Now, keep in mind, Bitcoin does not trade in isolation, okay? Bitcoin is sensitive or correlated to the stock market. So let's change this here now. I'm going to change that 30 minutes. So we got our 30-minute plan, okay? You guys got that? So we have our expectations. We're basically looking for longs. Now, look at the NASDAQ. This is the NASDAQ 100. Does it not look like the same chart? I mean, look at this price action over here. All right. Haven't we just seen this on Bitcoin? It's the same nonsense. Look, it poked into this area just like Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin on its own? No. It's following this. So it makes sense to use this as a guide. Now, I'm going to change this also to a 5-minute. Okay, and we can watch the NASDAQ trade alongside Bitcoin and use the NASDAQ as a cue. Maybe it can help us get an idea of what's coming, right? So that we can help filter out false signals that may appear on Bitcoin. Does that make sense? So I don't need to sit here and reevaluate the NASDAQ. Bitcoin just told me what the NASDAQ was all about. So I'm going to watch the NASDAQ now, all right, just for basically clues, watching the price action. We know we're fooling around near a support. The NASDAQ tried to bounce. It's given it back. Okay, no problem. Bitcoin is not looking so hot right now, but we're still in a location where longs are likely. Now, going to our 5-minute chart here, look at this candle, right? Look at this 5-minute candle right here, right? That is a bullish pin bar. And also look a few candles about 20 minutes ago. Look, another bullish pin bar, right? So when you see bullish pin bars, on top of that, look at this. There was an attempt over here as well. So this section right here, there was some buying activity trying to happen, okay? And it still may happen. So we don't want to jump to conclusions here and think this is a short, but the Captain Obvious trader will short this. Oh, yeah, it's a short. Look, it's breaking lower. And they're grasping at the obvious. You cannot do that. You have to think ahead, all right? So you can't look at this and say, okay, that's what I'm focused on. You have to consider this in light of what can happen here, okay? So you always have to keep your eyes here as well in an empty space. Like, what do I need to see for price to tell me that it wants to get back in there? Well, certainly not this. So we're going to sit this out and wait until we get something a little more bullish. Now, if we just continue lower and this thing just completely breaks this area, then we have to look for short continuation or bearish continuation patterns, right? Because the next support, as we know, is quite lower, okay? But so don't lose sight of that bigger picture. Look, the next support is basically all the way over here. So it's possible that maybe it wants to work its way there, but we're going to need the NASDAQ to push it along, right? If the NASDAQ reverses and goes green, you think this thing is going to keep going lower? So you can't have those type of opinions. Does that make sense? So when I'm getting my sense of levels and structure, I sort of formulate a loose opinion. But that opinion will change very quickly if I get evidence that suggests something else. Does that make sense? So it's very hard to maintain that balance of an open mind, but that really should be your primary focus. Keep an open mind, all right? And I know some people, oh, but I should be able to know the future. There's a lot of people out there that like to promise that and feed you that gimmick, but it's nothing more than a gimmick. There's no way to know. We're playing a random game. How many times do I see people ask, or people even ask me, what's your opinion of Bitcoin? Where do you think Bitcoin will be in 3 months? There's no way to know. Okay, there's no way to know. And what a lot of these frauds do is they'll come out with some kind of ridiculous forecast, and if the market happens to make them right randomly, they come out and they say, hey, look how right I was. I'm a genius. Buy my products or watch my videos so I can make money off of the ad revenue. That is what they do. That is how they make money. They don't make money off of trades. Okay. All right. So speaking of trades, let's open up this thing here. Wow, so Bitcoin is not doing so well at the moment. Okay, no problem. We're not long. We're waiting, right? But this location is still an area where a long may develop. So you can't sit here and overreact. We're looking for the long reversal. We're in a location for a long reversal. We just don't have one. So we let the market play out. So let me see what people are saying here. Okay. All right. Hey, Han, how are you? 3 o'clock. Then I can't see it live. Okay. Okay. Band rehearsal. Oh, okay. Oh, you're a musician. Okay, no problem. All right. So again, I'm just trying to get an idea. This is the middle of the workday for me. So prefer evening GMT to watch. Okay. So I guess that would mean 3 o'clock Eastern time, right? For me, because that's like what, 10 o'clock your time in London? India, in London. My Londoner, right? Am I correct? Are you in London? So yeah, in England. So I know. So I know. So well, when I stream on Mondays, right, at 3 o'clock Eastern time, I get a lot of people watching. A lot more people. I mean, I don't get a lot of people to begin with, but at my numbers, if I'm at 15 now, but I'm at 30, that's like double, right? I mean, even though it's insignificant either way, I'm just trying to maximize my time as well. Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, sorry, I have to. That's my bad British accent. I know. I realize that there are a variety of British accents. There's not just one for the whole country. All right, I learned that recently. All right, anyway, but just like in New Jersey, my accent is not the same as people from South Jersey, and it's not the same as people from parts of New York City, like Brooklyn, which is not too far from here. We all from the same area, but we all sound funny in our own way. All right, so enough of that. So let's see, is Bitcoin giving us some sort of signal? You have to understand waiting is a very important part of this game, and it sucks, okay? That's one of the reasons why I've been working hard on the auto setups, because the auto setups, you don't have to wait. The setup occurs, and then you do something. So if the setup occurs at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're busy with something else, and then you get the notification, right? Because you can set up push notifications, right, on the Discord server. You say, oh, okay, now I can start doing this, right? That's using your time more efficiently, and that's where screeners can be very beneficial if you know what to screen for. All right, so when you're doing it like this, I mean, this way, sitting in front of a chart and waiting for things to happen, I've always felt that this is a very antiquated way to do things, okay? Especially with the automation that's available today. But this is a good training exercise, because basically what we're doing here is we're waiting for, like, this is what the robot would be waiting for. So why not outsource it to a robot? But you should understand what is actually happening and why you're taking the trade that you're taking, why you're assuming the risk that you're taking, okay? You really need to understand the concepts behind it. And that's the whole point of this. So let's see, anything we can do with this? No, we're still in an area where a buy signal can happen, right? We're still in the area, but it looks like it's not happening anytime soon. We have 3 minutes before this candle closes. I don't believe we have today is Wednesday. I don't believe we have any particular news today, any economic news. So the market can be highly random. Now, we had Chairman Powell yesterday. I don't know exactly what he said. I just look at the prices and I see the market liked it. Okay. So now look at the NASDAQ. See how it's trying to pull people in. Now realize, I want you to understand something. When markets do something like this, okay, this sucks in a lot of shorts right here. What's happening, right? People using their oscillators and all of the garbage, they're all shorting the breakout. And when this happens, like we're seeing right now here, the pin bar, that is now these shorts are basically selling into a possible area where they may be getting absorbed, right? If that's the case, and this thing doesn't sell off, that means you're going to have all the people that got short in this area, they're going to get squeezed, okay? And that's the move we're looking for. That is what drives price up like this, because they're all getting out at the same time, right? All their stops are getting knocked out, and that's a temporary, what I like to think of as a temporary or behavioral inefficiency. Now, these are, again, they're hard to find because you have to wait for them. They're not something that occur every 2 seconds. You can say, well, why don't we go to a 2-minute chart? I mean, you can do that, but for Bitcoin, they get very noisy on smaller time frames. I trade futures on a 2-minute, possibly a 3-minute chart, but we're talking like the S&P or the NASDAQ. Those markets are fast enough, especially the NASDAQ is wild enough to work with on that time frame. But Bitcoin is usually more muted, or it's not as eventful, right, as those markets. So it's usually not a good idea, right? So I think 5-minute is appropriate for what we're trying to do here for an intraday type of trade. Now, keep in mind, when you're taking an intraday trade, your expectations before all the analysis that I just showed you, right? That the brief analysis, before you even do all of that, you should have your proper risk reward expectations predetermined, right? And I can tell you just from experience that risking about 60 to 80 points on Bitcoin, right? That's what we're losing. 60 to 80 points on Bitcoin is reasonable. Okay, we got the 5-minute close. We have a pin bar on the NASDAQ. Now, Bitcoin's going to give us the same look. So we take out that 5-minute high. That's 23004. I'm going long. I'm going to go long 2 contracts. Okay. So we have to take the level out. I'm going to draw a line there. So we need to take out this level. Okay. So notice we got the pin bar, and I wasn't just jumping into the trade. Okay. I now have a level. I have a predetermined price where I can get into the trade. So the market needs to compromise that price. The NASDAQ is trying, right? The NASDAQ's trying to go for it here. Bitcoin has yet to follow. And you say, well, if the NASDAQ goes first, then I should probably buy Bitcoin at a better price. You can try that, but the thing is, you really should wait for the market to tap you in. In fact, when I call swing trades, what I usually do is I place the orders in advance. I say, okay, the entry would be here, right? The stop order 23004, and the stop loss would be here. Okay, and then it's up to the market to make the trade happen, not me. I can then walk away. Of course, I put a profit target in as well. And this, so just to complete what I was talking about before, look at the NASDAQ. We have the buy signal in the NASDAQ. Bitcoin should follow. Let's see. Okay, and maybe I'll go for the early entry if that NASDAQ is convincing enough. But the point is this: I should know these orders in advance, right? I know my buy order right now. I can tell you my stop order. It's going to go here, okay, in advance. I'm not in the trade yet, and I know these things, okay? My profit target should be at least 1.5 to 1, okay? You can do 1 to 1, but over the long term, 1.5 to 1 makes more sense, all right? Especially with the costs involved. So how big is this pin bar is the question, because that's going to tell us our risk. So the high of the pin bar is 23,004. The low is 22,953. So what is that, about 60 points, something like that, right? 50 points. We can round that to 60 points. So we're looking at 60 points of risk. So what would be 1-to-1 reward risk? 90-point profit. All right, now notice, NASDAQ gave me that signal. Bitcoin is completely collapsing here. All right, I'm not in it. So that is a perfect example of how, using a predetermined order keeps me out of trouble. If I was overreactive and could not control myself, I would have jumped in here, and now this thing would have went to my stop, number one, even though the NASDAQ is giving me a conflicting signal. They don't follow each other to the T, right? Now, but if the NASDAQ persists though, right? If the NASDAQ does this, Bitcoin will probably give us another buy signal. That's a reasonable assumption. But I'm not going to take a trade based on that until I see the evidence, okay? I'm not going to just jump in just because I think something. The market doesn't care what we think. Does that make sense? Okay, so yeah. So yeah, Han, I mean, I do, it would be nice to just make better use of my time to have more people because that's what I need, in order to make this worthwhile for me. I like to help people, but it also has to be beneficial to me. Otherwise, I suffer. Okay, anyway, so look at this. Here's what I'm talking about. See this? So that's why we can't jump to conclusions on Bitcoin just because it was breaking there. That may be shaking people out, whatever. It doesn't matter why. What matters is the NASDAQ is giving us a clear buy signal. How much time do we have? We have 2 minutes before this candle closes. This is probably going to turn into a long at a better price. Now, again, the value of this lesson here, though, is letting the market tap us in. So far, I'm getting conflicting signal. I'm flat. I don't have to sit here and get stopped out. I don't have to sit here and lose money. I can avoid the loss. That exercise in and of itself is very valuable because if you can avoid losses, right, that is playing a strong defense. Defense is where profits come from, not home runs. If you're new at this, you're going to do the Captain Obvious things. You're going to grasp for profits. You're going to want to know how to maximize your profits instead of focusing on high probability setups that have a high probability outcome, although that outcome is not going to be a home run. So like, for example, of course, we'd like to risk 50 points and make 300 points, right? Of course, we'd like to do that, but there may be a much greater probability, or theoretically, there is a greater probability that you could make 150 points before you're going to make 300 points, right? So there's a greater chance you can get out for a smaller profit. The thing is, we can't make the risk it has to be greater than the risk. Otherwise, you're just going to churn. Remember, there's a cost involved, right? We're always competing with the cost. So on the day trade time frame, you can't have hundreds of trades. So you want to keep the trades as minimized as possible because of the cost. Now look at this. NASDAQ has given us a clear-cut buy signal, okay? That's a long on the NASDAQ. I'm not getting a long here. This is not a long. So conflict, no problem, step aside, okay? Maybe we should trade the NASDAQ. Here, why not? Let's give that a try. There's a buy signal there. So I'll put on 2 contracts to the NASDAQ. And now look at Bitcoin turning around. I'm going to buy the NASDAQ. Okay, we're going to just, why not? So I just bought the NASDAQ. What price I got there? 12,658. So now look how quickly Bitcoin turned around. Interesting, right? Now, there's still no buy signal yet on Bitcoin. I'm long the NASDAQ right now, right? The CFD on paper. So let's take a look now. This Bitcoin, if this gives me the signal, I'm going to buy it. All right, because look, it basically fooled around the stop. I'm going to have to adjust my orders. We have 4 minutes before this closes. So really wait for the close. Okay, don't jump into this too early. We saw what could have happened if you jumped in early. So you're not always going to get the best price, but you want to get the momentum, right? That's the goal. So now with that NASDAQ trade, since we're waiting here, let me go to this over here, right? That NASDAQ trade, I want to place my stop and target order. Oh wait, hold on. Bitcoin is, I may have to get into that. What's going on here? Wait a minute. Oh no, that just changed to US tech. Hold on. I was going to say, wow, Bitcoin, that was quick on Bitcoin. Okay. I want to make sure I get into Bitcoin too at the same time. If this thing's going to give me a signal, I got plenty of time. Well, here's the thing. Now that I have this red candle here, I can adjust my entry, right? So I don't have to wait till this level. I can actually adjust lower to the high of the previous candle, this candle. See that? And it wants to go for it. So that's 22,989. All right, so I'll take that, 22,989. Right now we're at 78, 79. So we're only 10 points off, right? 10 points away from that. So I'm just gonna prepare to buy that because it's gonna pop through there probably pretty quickly. Look at the NASDAQ. Here it goes. One more tick and I'm in. Tick above and I'm in. I'm not gonna get exactly 989. I'll get a little bit higher than that. Okay, so let's see this thing do it. Almost there. If the NASDAQ keeps up with that, it'll pop through. But see, I'm waiting. I don't mind paying a little bit more. I was going to pay 23.04. Okay, so I'm still getting a slightly better price. Now, instead of sitting here waiting, of course, I can just place the order in advance, the stop in advance. But I don't want to be fumbling around with like the platform and then miss it, especially since I want to put those orders in for the NASDAQ. So I want to wait until this thing taps me in. All right, it's not tapping me in, no problem. And while I'm waiting for that, what I'd like to do here is I'd like to place my stop and my limit, my target for the NASDAQ, okay? Because again, these orders should be placed in advance. You don't want to sit there and say, well, I'll get out when I feel like it. Bad idea. You want to minimize yourself from the equation. So I got long, what was it, around here. My stop on this thing theoretically should start out at the low of the pin bar. I'm looking at the NASDAQ right now. So 12, we can say 12.6 even, okay? So I can put my stop, set the price, right? 12.6 even. Again, I'm just doing this very quickly. Usually you want to maybe make those numbers not so precise, like maybe 6,595, but whatever. I'm going to put it at 6 even here. Okay, that would be right. 6 even is all the way over here. Okay, so it's way below that pin bar, way out of its way. Now, my risk based on that, let me pull that thing up again. I entered in at 658 and my stop set, that's basically 60 points, right? I want to work this quickly and round the numbers. So I need to make at least 60 to 90 points, right? 1 to 1.5 to 1. So that would put me at, let's see, where am I long from again? 658. So that would put me at like 7. Okay, hold on, Bitcoin. Here it comes. One more, I just need one more tick above and I'm in this thing. Look at that NASDAQ go. So you guys following this so far? Bitcoin is under the resistance. Is it good to buy ID? Well, no, this is not a resistance. This is not a resistance. That's my entry line. That's my entry line. Okay, the candle just closed. One more tick above this green candle I'm in. You have to understand what we're taking advantage of here. So this is the purpose, Raman, why we conducted the analysis and expectations at the very beginning of the stream, because I want to know where my general resistance is and my general support. We're generally in a supportive area, okay? So you say, resistance, this is generally a supportive area when we look at the 30-minute chart. So a powerful, a dramatic reversal like this is very likely to happen here, right? And that's what we're looking for. So So Bitcoin, I'm still waiting, right? I'm not in a rush to get into this thing because it just refuses to tick above that price. Okay, no problem. So I'll wait. The NASDAQ gave us this nice move, and the NASDAQ's a very noisy thing, right? It's very noisy. So it can turn red, it can turn green, whatever. I put my stop there, basically at 6 even. And what we're pulling back right now, we're at 665. I never got to put my price target. I want to put my target here. And so if I'm long from 58, 68, 708, so we're looking at like maybe 718, okay? 718. So just as a point of reference, right? As a point of reference. Now, just because I placed my order here, I want to point something out, right? Actually, let me draw it on the chart first, okay? Let me draw the target on the chart. So my stop is basically here, okay? That's where I put my stop on the NASDAQ. I'm not even in Bitcoin, all right? My entry was here at 658, which is here. We're basically back to break even right now, right? 658. And my target would have to go here, 718, right about here, okay? So that's basically what the trade idea looks like. Now look how quickly it gave it back. Interesting. So now I'm red, okay? I went from green to red. I could have broken even on that. I had that chance, but I was too busy fooling around with the orders. But how far is this thing against me now? So let's see, we're at 640. All right, so it's a good, to almost 20 points against me. It's still nowhere near my stop. So I really should be giving this a chance, right? I should try to give this thing a chance, but it's never a bad idea to mitigate the risk completely. Like if I was quicker on this, I could have just blown it out, right, for break even and just wait for the next signal. You're better off blowing it out than saying, well, I'm just going to wait till the stop, because that could be a loss that you just completely avoid. Does that make sense? So let's see what we get here. We got 2 minutes for this candle to close. Definitely not what I want to see. All right, but we're going to give it a chance. And as you can see, Bitcoin, I was patient with it, and it never got me in. So if the NASDAQ completely sells off here, I'm not in that Bitcoin. I just took the NASDAQ because there was a buy signal, and I want to demonstrate a buy signal. All right. So, but a trade is a trade. So again, if Bitcoin takes out this level right here, I'm going to take it long. So let's see what happens. This candle is certainly like an engulfing light candle. We have 2 minutes before it closes. You have to be patient with it. Let's let this thing close. Now, again, so Raman, to just kind of point out, like to answer your question visually, you said, why should we be buying below resistance? Well, where's the resistance? This is the bigger picture, right? This is the 30-minute. And like I pointed out before, and this is the whole purpose of doing that analysis in the beginning, is this is a support area. It's not a resistance. Okay, the resistance, significant resistance, is up here, right? So if I was buying into this zone, I'd have to be a lot more careful, right? I'm buying into a supportive area. The support isn't really asserting itself just yet, but it's generally a supportive area. That's why I'm going for buy signals in the area and giving them more weight. Does that make sense? So let's move this now back to a 5 minute, okay? So you can't, the support and resistance on a 5 minute chart, like you can't sit here and say, well, that's a resistance over here. It is a minor resistance. It's not significant on the bigger picture. So it can get blown right through. It doesn't really count. Does that make sense? So you can't weight all the support and resistance levels equally. You have to weight them based on the relevance of their time frame. So look, now Bitcoin kind of is giving back this move so far. This actually, right, well, we'll see how the next 5 minute bar closes. This is actually an inside bar on Bitcoin to go short, right? If it takes out the low, but I'm not going to take that short because I don't like the location. So this would be a sell signal right here, okay? If you're aggressive and you want to go for the continuation, you can do that. Again, I suggest on paper, but if it turns right around on you and it starts pushing here, you need to get out because you're shorting into a support. So, it's an aggressive trade if you're interested in that. But again, the NASDAQ has has demonstrated some buying, right? Although it's given it back very quickly, we may get, again, if this buying comes back in, if it comes back in, this is going to turn in your face, right? So you have to decide, are you willing to do that? It's okay to give it a try. You just have to be able to adjust if you're wrong, okay? So let's see. That's why I would prefer not to short this, right, as a day trade, because this NASDAQ, the probability of this NASDAQ turning right here is pretty high, okay, because of the location. Again, you can't go by exactly what you see. So, I mean, look, this thing looks ugly right now, but it may turn green. Just like back here, it looked really ugly and it turned green, okay? So this could be initial buying, and then they get shaken out, okay? Could be hard to sit through. This is a form of patience. Now I'm doing this on paper, so it doesn't matter. I'm not losing real money, but it's the exercise of the decision-making process based on what the chart is telling us. Okay, so far this isn't looking good. Not looking good, but who am I to judge? Let the market tap me out. I have a stop in place. It's there. It may go there, and I don't want to be reacting to things. Now, if this thing takes out the stop, this thing takes out this stop on my NASDAQ, and it goes lower, I'm not going to sit there and jump into this thing shorting it, because again, I would be reacting and I would be selling at the worst possible area. If I'm shorting here, that's the worst possible area to go short. Just like all the people who shorted it over here on this pin bar, right? They shorted the bottom of the pin bar because they saw a breakout. And they, breakout short, right? And then they got squeezed. That's what this was. Okay, it's just the squeeze could not continue. There was no, the momentum could not continue. It gave it back pretty quickly. But as we can see here we go. Right? So the buying attempt, here it goes again. Oh, should we be very surprised about a buying attempt there? Well, there were numerous buying attempts here. So it makes sense. Okay, now Bitcoin never gave us the new low, and you're going to have traders that shorted this thing, right? The short idea may still be in play, but it's highly risky. If this thing reverses hard, you realize if this thing reverses hard here like that, you realize that becomes a new buy signal, okay? In an area where a buy signal has a high probability. So do you see how the location, how important the location is? It's not just the candlesticks. Candlesticks can appear randomly. It's the location that I'm focused on, all right? And structure can play a role in that as well. So you guys following me so far? Any questions? Any questions? So let's see how this candle closes. I mean, I'm not happy with this NASDAQ situation, but you know, that's just the way this thing is. Let's take a look at a 15-minute chart just to see if we can get some more insight into the how this thing is performing or where it's performing around, like the location. So, when I look at it from here, I mean, this structure, we can argue, is still in play, right? We broke this range. Okay, so we're kind of fooling around a range low. Now watch this. This is something that my students know about. Okay, I'm not going to explain this here, but my students who've taken my program know about this. Does that look familiar to you guys? Okay, that should. So that's another reason, right? And that's where something like that comes in helpful. You're like, okay, it gives you that extra layer of expectation. Now, keep in mind, I may get stopped out here, right? And it may be followed by a new entry to go long, a new signal to go long. Happens all the time. You have to be willing to take stops like that, and you have to be willing to get back in. Sometimes it takes a couple of trades. You're not going to be right the first one. That's the nature of day trades. It sucks, but that's the way it works, okay? Sometimes your first two trades may be losing trades, and then your goal, at least like when I'm in that situation, my goal becomes to make my money back for the day and then turn this thing off, because obviously, the market's just not cooperating. All right, it's just not, there's no momentum going in the ways that make sense with the structure, right? That happens. Look, I'm going to get stopped out here most likely. Look at that, right to it. I should be out. See, there it is. So I got stopped out on the NASDAQ. Okay. Now, keep in mind, I gave it a chance, right? I gave the market a chance. I could have gotten out for break even, right? I could have done that, but I gave it a chance. So that's going to happen, right? You have to decide. Do you want to give it a chance and take the loss like I just took on paper? It's not real. Or would you rather get out here? I could have gotten out right away and I could have stayed away from this loss. Does that make sense? Artificial intelligence is um, looks like artificial intelligence is, well, I wouldn't go by that. Okay, that's just, everyone is using that right now as a hook to drive attention to content, right? They put AI in front of everything, and just like .com was in front of everything 20 years ago. Don't jump to those conclusions, right? A market is still a market. It's not going to be, we have AI traders now. It's nonsense. That's the same as an algo. Algos have been around forever, right? They've been around for 20 years. So don't jump to those kind of conclusions. It's just a trend. It's a word trend, if you want to call it that. So look, this thing took out my stop, and it just looks like it wants to keep going. That short that I mentioned, the aggressive short on Bitcoin, right, so far is paying something, but I still wouldn't short this. First of all, I wasn't willing to take the aggressive short. I was not willing to do that. Okay. I was interested in the long, the reversal, and we never got that. So no problem. Now the question is, where's the next support? Let's check the NASDAQ, right? Where is the next support on this thing? Let's see, because it's breaking now, right? It shouldn't be doing that if it was strong. So let's see. Let's see if I can find an old resistance. We have one around here somewhere, right? That's the next support on this thing. That's 12,527. So this thing can basically work its way into that area and possibly bounce off of that area. This support area that I basically tried to buy now becomes a resistance. You realize that, right? So that would be an area to look for shorts now, not the bottom, right? This old support now becomes the area. We adjust. That's why I say you have to keep an open mind. Now, let's go back and look at our Bitcoin chart. Hold on a second here. And as we can see, Bitcoin is breaking, right? Somewhat. Where are we now? 22,942 is this low over here. We're as low as 896, right? But this still may bounce. Let's take a look at the bigger picture on this thing again, right? Let's go to our 15-minute on Bitcoin. Interesting. Look at the 15-minute pin bar on Bitcoin. See that? You can barely see it. Look at this. Look at that. That's interesting, right? But we're not looking at 15-minute candles here for trade setups. The risk is a lot higher on that. So look where we're fooling around, okay? Look where we're fooling around. Again, I would not want to be shorting into these supports. It looks nice right now, but you have to be really quick on your feet if you're wrong on this thing, okay? So if you're able to get away with 50 points on something like that, okay, great. But as soon as this thing turns green, you have to get out, or it'd be a good idea to get out. Now look at the NASDAQ. This NASDAQ it looks really ugly, but if Bitcoin finds support first, okay, if it finds support and refuses to continue to sell, at that moment, it will be demonstrating relative strength. And if the NASDAQ turns out like that, this thing is going to squeeze, right? That's the theory anyway. Okay, so any questions about that? So what I've demonstrated here, that looks like the short-term momentum happening. Lots of alts are popping, okay? So, but the alts don't lead the way. Bitcoin leads the way. And when it comes to that, and what leads Bitcoin, as you can see, is the NASDAQ, right? And the S&P, and ultimately the bonds. So don't look for the alts for leadership. That's nonsense. Alts are highly random. They're all over the place a lot of times, but Bitcoin leads them. So they're not going to go very far. If Bitcoin sells off, they're not going to go very far. Okay, so keep that in mind. Don't look for leadership there. Look for the leadership here. So we now have this candle just closed, right? There's no buy signals right now. No reason to be going long. You don't want to make the mistake of just stepping in front of it, just saying, oh, it's too low. That's a mistake. So just to recap on the lesson here that we learned from this exercise, again, there was a buy signal on the NASDAQ here, okay? I took it. It was green momentarily, okay? I never took any profits. My profit target was up here. Never got close, not even close to that area. It turned in my face right away. I had a brief chance to break even. I chose not to. and it went straight to my stop over the next 10 minutes. Okay. It's going to happen. So taking losses, knowing how to take a loss is a very key aspect of this game. At this point, we've broken the support area. I can now look to that support area as a potential resistance. I don't want to be shorting Bitcoin and reacting to it, even though it's selling here. Now, one good thing is I never got into this long on Bitcoin, right? I took the long on the NASDAQ. I was careful not to get long here, and obviously that was a good choice. People don't recognize that because, oh, you could have gotten short. I saw the short signal, the sell signal. I mentioned the sell signal, but I was not willing to get short into a support area, okay? And I'm still not willing to get short into a support area. When we see a situation like this and the move is basically in play, right? The move is in progress. You have to wait for a resistance level if you want a higher probability. If you step in front of this now, here's the thing. It may work now, right? And you may make something now, but if you try that same trade 100 times, you will lose. It's like taking a low probability poker hand and playing it thinking because you won one time, you think that, oh, next time it should work too. But really it's low probability, so it'll only work maybe 1 out of 20 hands. Why would you want to play cards that are going to win 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 10 hands? That's really a losing proposition, right? It's the same idea here. You don't chase these things because you want to take high probability setups that work more than half the time if possible. Okay, half the time is random, so you really want to do better than random if possible. It's not easy, but that's the objective. See what I mean here? If you had chased this thing, right now it's kind of turning in your face and you're getting the bullish pin bar. Notice the NASDAQ at the same time. Okay. All right, cool. So, hey, Mark, nice name. So, yeah. But you see, Raman, how quickly it turned? So your comment there, you were just describing this, but look how, see, so it's not really, it turns right in your face, right? And you don't see the turn coming. All we know is it's a general area. You don't want to be selling into lows. Okay, generally you don't want to do that. So if you're going to go short, you need to short at a resistance if you want the probability more on your side. So for NASDAQ, that means all the way over here somewhere. Okay, for Bitcoin, that's going to actually, for Bitcoin, it's nowhere near this area because this entire area for Bitcoin, as we talked about earlier, is generally a support area. Now, I mean, look at the bearish pin bar developing. Look at the inside bar now developing on the NASDAQ. You realize the squeeze may occur here, okay? Not too far below where I got stopped out. Like I said before, sometimes you have to take a stop or two before you catch the winning trade. It's going to happen. That's why, as a day trader also, if my first trade is a winner, I stop. I take the green and I turn the platform off because your next trade, you may give it right back. We're playing a highly random game. If you let greed step in and you, well, I'm a trader, I'm going to make money all day. More trades, the more of a chance you're going to give it back, okay? Because we're playing a random game. All right, so I'm going to leave you guys with that. Again, if you have questions, you know where to find me. The Discord channel, make sure you join it. If you haven't, it's in the link in the description. I mentioned that free resource area, and I mentioned the auto setups, which are coming, okay? If you missed that, you can just replay the video, and you can see what I talked about that stuff. All right, so again, guys, I stream on Mondays on TradingView, and I stream on Wednesdays here on YouTube. It seems like I got mixed feedback on my time, the 9:30 or the 3 o'clock time. I'm going to have to experiment with that and see, okay? So again, you guys, keep an eye on these charts. I hope you took notes on some of the things I said. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world, and thank you so much for watching.